Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I wanted to do a quick update on how the heist economy has shaken out. And so I wanted to talk about some of the trends that people have seen and why there's been a bit of movement against those in recent weeks. So firstly, I want to start by a quick recap on what the most substantial factors influencing the Heist League's economy are. And firstly, we're going to look at Beast. And you'll notice that Phenomenal Plagued Arachnid is the most valuable that it's ever been at about 300 Chaos Orbs or 3.8 Exalts. And the reason that Phenomenal Plagued Arachnids are this expensive is because these can be used to duplicate any blueprint that is not corrupted or mirrored. So if you've got a blueprint that is one of the very best ones that can possibly exist, then a Phenomenal Plagued Arachnid is a consumable that will effectively not just mimic the effects of a Mirror of Kalandra, it's better than a Mirror of Kalandra because the new blueprint can also be further modified. Needless to say, this is pretty significant in an environment where blueprints, one, cost a lot of rogues markers to get into a point where they're distributing an enormous amount of loot, and two, where there are some truly staggeringly powerful blueprints doing the rounds and getting traded around a lot. So duplicated versions of the 17 currency drop blueprint that allows Vindiri on every wing are circulating, and the demand for Phenomenal Plagued Arachnids remains ridiculously strong. Now these blueprints give out so many raw Exalted Orbs, raw currency orbs of all other types, that essentially there's been a depression in the value of currency orbs across the board, excluding the ones that cannot be dropped from contracts and blueprints. So what I'm talking about by the ones that can't be dropped by contracts and blueprints, we're talking things like Awakener's Orbs, Redeemer's Exalts, Hunter's Exalts, Warlord's Exalts, and the like. These have held up some pretty typical values. We'll get to why the Redeemer Exalt is the most valuable of the Conqueror Exalts, but all of these have held up quite a bit in value, whereas pretty much everything else is absolutely in the dumpster. Exalted Orbs we'll come back to later. They're a bit of a niche case, but Ancient Orbs are only 18 Chaos, when in any other league they'd be that has the ability to use them to gamble for a Headhunter, they would be much more expensive. And things like Annulment Orbs that are extremely rare, but that have extremely low demand as well. These can be quite expensive in some leagues, but in this league they're only down to 2 Chaos Orbs. Likewise, stack decks are the cheapest they've ever been, and this again is just purely due to oversupply. Then as we go to the currencies that are really disgorged in extraordinary numbers by the heist content, you'll see something else changing. Gem Cutter Prisms, like these, in most leagues these are exciting to see drop. In this league they're barely worth having on your loot filter. Chromatic Orbs are a bit higher than usual for some reason. That must be because someone's recently bought a lot of them. But things like Val Orbs are much lower than before. Orbs of Regret much lower than in normal leagues. And most of these currencies really you shouldn't have on your loot filter anymore, and I need to take my own advice and remove them. So that's the fundamentals of what's going on. The duplication of brokenly powerful contracts via Phenomenal Plagued Arachnids is causing there to be an absolute flood of raw currency in the market, and the people that know how to play Path of Trading are taking advantage of this unusual situation and essentially enriching themselves. The other factor that needs to be said is that Fractured Fossils provide a slightly less powerful but very similar way to duplicate powerful blueprints. And again, Fractured Fossils, the only thing that they are worth using on is that blueprint. That 17 currency drop blueprint, that's the only thing Fractured Fossils are worth using on. Because of the incredible demand for Fractured Fossils and the growing number of people doing deep delving, everything else in the delve mines is at historic low prices, and essentially delve is now an all or nothing thing. Either you go all in and chase the Fractured Fossils, or you don't bother at all because nothing else is worth anything there. Now the next thing that needs to be said is the Exalted Orb. The Exalted Orb is increasing against the Chaos Orb, and I want to explain why this is, but I also want to look at the history of the Exalted Orb here. So, Exalted Orbs started the league as they normally do. Tremendous soaring early on, as people buy them as a store of wealth. I've advised people don't buy Exalts as a store of wealth, instead buy Mirror Shards if you can. and smaller pieces of a mirror, like the Divination card 7 Years Bad Luck if you can't afford a mirror shard. But I don't have the reach to stop this trend. People put all their wealth in Exalts, and then there was a slow but noticeable fear of not getting out effect that was taking place here. So what's going on here is that people have put their wealth into Exalts thinking that Exalts are going to go up in price. They don't go up in price, and then there's a real push to sell out that happens here. During this point, people are like, oh, I want to change my Exalts into Chaos Orbs because I think Chaos Orbs are a more secure currency. Then we see a stabilization around 60 Chaos for a period of time, followed by what I've heard speculated, and I kind of believe this myself, although I don't have any evidence for it, that there was a significant market manipulation going on. What market manipulation looks like in practice is a cabal of sellers get together and they decide, all right, we are going to try to replicate this fear of not getting out selling frenzy, but we are also secretly going to buy all of the stock. So what this cabal of sellers can do is, if the fair market price for an Exalt is 58.3 Chaos Orbs, as it was on October 19, they can have 20 different people list a whole bunch of Exalts at 57 chaos each. These are genuinely being sold, and they're losing a small amount of value on each trade. But their goal is to get people undercutting and counter undercutting each other. And this appears to have worked. It pushed down the value of the Exalted Orb as low as 24 Chaos before it rebounded sharply. And then at this point, it started trending upwards beyond where it was before. Now, what I think is happening here on this upwards trend, so this downwards trend, I believe, was simply due to a market intervention by a group of motivated traders. I could be wrong on that front. It's just my reading of the situation. After that, the cabal of traders recover. They sell out all their Chaos Orbs, while their Chaos Orbs are extremely valuable. But then we're seeing now that there's a sharp increase happening in the prices of Exalted Orbs. What I think this reflects is that people who have decided, I have finished the Heist League. I've beaten everything I want to do in it. I'm not going to bother playing until the next league. These people are looking at the currency in their tab, and if they play Standard at all, they're thinking, well, you know what? I could sell all of my Chaos Orbs, convert them into Exalts, and they'll be worth more once the stash gets dropped in Standard, and then that means that I've got more opportunity to play around with things there. So I think that's what's going on now. And interestingly, I think this is likely to continue, and I think it's entirely likely that we'll see Exalts push towards the 120, 130 Chaos Orb zone as more people start finishing all of their goals in the Heist League and deciding to take a break from Path of Exile. It is the most common play trajectory people have. Go hard early, then take a break and come back refreshed. You know, maybe play some other games in the interim, maybe do things that have got nothing to do with online gaming at all, and then come back refreshed when the next expansion or the next economy reset happens. So for that reason, I'm kind of expecting the Exalted Orb to go up against the Chaos Orb even further, although, of course, I could be wrong. I'm not an oracle. The next thing, though, that I wanted to point out is the Redeemer's Exalted Orb specifically. Now, there's a couple of factors at play here. The Redeemer Exalt in previous leagues has been the least popular of the Conqueror's Exalted Orbs. And so at first it was a bit of a surprise to look at why it might be that the Redeemer Exalt would be the most valuable of this league. And it's held that for a while now. And you can also see that there's a lot of demand here for Redeemer Exalts. So there's been this sharp spike in buying prices that's been going on in the last couple of days, whilst at the same time the selling prices have been going up as well. Now, the key here is one of the new bases that was added, and that is the Simplex Amulet. The Simplex Amulet is one that you can only get from Grand Heist, and it's a really interesting one. It's got an implicit modifier that is a severe penalty. -1 prefix mod allowed, -1 suffix modifier allowed. So that means it can only get 2 prefixes, only 2 suffixes. Implicit modifiers cannot be changed. So this means no messing around with Val Orbs to get rid of this obnoxious these drawbacks here. Instead, you're stuck with them. But then we have this mod. 25% increased explicit modifier magnitudes. Now, what this means is that all of the mods that are on the item are increased in magnitude by 25%. So in this example, which is not a particularly powerful item, you'll see that it's got plus 111 to maximum life, where normally the roll range goes from 80 to 89. And what's happened here is that this was a natural 89, that's what the actual amulet rolled, and then it's getting 25% increase from this. Now, having 4 mods that are each 1.25 times as good as a normal mod only feels like 5 mods, whereas a normal amulet can have 6 mods, plus it can have its own implicit, which might be quite good. Like, for instance, a citrine amulet will give you plus 24 to 2 different stats. You're not getting anything in that slot. So a Simplex Amulet at first glance looks really bad. The thing is that the Simplex Amulet is absurdly powerful when it comes to influence mods. Influence mods that can be so powerful on their own that they are the reason that you have the entire slot. And if we have a look at these at the higher end and look to see what sort of what sort of mods are available there, you'll see that there's some pretty ridiculous ones, and the main one is this. So let's get the maximum roll instead. You'll notice here 7% reduced mana reserved. Anything to do with reducing mana reservation is something that really it's just a broken mechanic in the game at the moment, an absolutely broken mechanic. It's overpowered through and through, and whilst you can only normally get 5% on a Redeemer Amulet, with a Simplex Amulet, that can be increased to 7%. So you'll see that there's 15% quality, which adds 15% of 5, and then there's this 25%, which adds 25% of 5. All of that together, 40% increase in magnitude, a natural roll of 5. That's a 7% mana reservation reduction. Now, this is a Redeemer mod and a Shaper mod from memory, and I will just quickly confirm that. And as you can see here, this is PoEDB, this is a data mining website that lists all of the mods that can roll on items. Of Redemption, minimum level 75, 4 to 5% mana reservation reduce. And in the Shaper pool, there is the same thing. There is, hiding around here somewhere, minimum level 82, 3 to 5% reduced mana reserved. So, as long as the item is one of a Shaper item or a Redeemer item, it can roll this powerful mod. And in order to make a Shaper Simplex Amulet, you need to use an Awakener's Orb. So the cheapest way to make a Simplex Amulet that has this effect of 7% reduced mana reservation is simply to use a Redeemer's Exalted Orb on a Simplex Amulet. Once you've done that, you can then roll it and get yourself that brokenly powerful 7% mana reservation reduction, potentially alongside other things as well. But to be fair, you would give up your entire amulet slot on any build that is exploiting mana reservation reduction to get 7%. It is that good. It is better than everything else you can do on the amulet slot, and as a result, the Redeemer Exalt is the most popular of the Elder Slayer's Exalted Orbs this league. Normally it's the Hunter Exalt that's the most popular, and that's still holding up reasonably strong, but is just not as popular. The key thing you'll also notice is that all of the Conqueror Exalts are doing pretty well against the Exalted Orb. I think this is because you simply can't get the Elder Slayer Exalts or Conqueror Exalts in any way from the Heist mechanics, at least to the best of my knowledge, and so they are genuinely scarce in the economy, whilst all of the Heist blueprint splitting is causing there to be a flood of Exalted Orbs, of Chaos Orbs, and the like. The next thing that I want to point out is that demand for the Chaos Orb is tapering off. Now, a lot of people think of the Chaos Orb as the centerpiece of currency in Path of Exile. That, you know, Chaos Orbs are what everything should be priced in. And like that's a reasonable viewpoint. But the thing is that fundamentally Chaos Orbs have value not because they're traded to other players, but because ultimately players remove them from the economy by various means. And the most significant means by which Chaos Orbs are leaving the economy this league is the Zana delirium mod. Now, something is really noticeable here. The Simulacrum unique map has increased in price substantially over the last few days. Now, my suspicion here is that there's a lot more people whose mindset with the Heist League is now, I want to hit level 100, or I want to get 40 challenges done, or even I want to get 36 challenges done, then quit the league. These people are the people who are economic movers and shakers usually in a league. These people might have 50 Exalts worth of currency in the bank. And what they're looking to do at the moment is pick up Simulacrums and Chaola's Pure Breachstones. They're not interested in doing more farming. They're just getting Simulacrums, Chaola's Pure Breachstones, and running them in groups in order to power level their characters. Well, that means that there's an increase in demand for the Simulacrum unique map. And the Simulacrum mostly comes from people who farm who farm maps using Zana's delirium Zana's map machines delirium mod. As a result, I think that the demand for Chaos Orbs is going to hold up pretty strong, and that people will make a very large amount of currency in the rest of the league if their goal is simply running Zana Delirium Tropical Islands. And there's an excellent guide by Twitch streamer Grimro as to how to do this. Just be warned that it requires an exceptionally powerful character. If you don't have an exceptionally powerful character, you will not make currency doing this. You will lose it. But if you've got a really strong character, then there's really no reason that you can't run 6 maps an hour, and in each of those maps make an average of 70 to 100 Chaos Orbs in profit. So, you know, making about, at current rates, about 8 Exalted Orbs an hour by doing that. In terms of other things that have been interesting this league, the Headhunter is starting to fall against the Exalted Orb, but is still rising strong against the Chaos Orb. Again, I think that there's a big sense here of a lot of the people who got an early Headhunter may now be thinking, you know what, I'm going to take a break from Path of Exile for the rest of the league. I'm going to sell this because it's cheaper to buy it back in Standard. And so those people are like, all right, I'm going to sell off my Headhunter, get a bunch of Exalts, and then if I decide in Standard that I want to play with a Headhunter, then I'll just buy another one. So I think that that's a major factor there. That means that all of the things that contribute to getting a Headhunter, such as Doctor Divination cards, Nurse Divination cards, Demon Divination cards, stacked decks and the like, these are going down against the Exalt, but going up against the Chaos Orb at the moment. Lastly, I just want to point out how absurdly cheap Prophecies are this league. And this is an interesting one. The Queen's Sacrifice allows you to upgrade Atziri's Mirror to Atziri's Reflection. Atziri's Mirror is one of the genuine rarest chase items in the game. It's a really powerful shield, very, very popular on characters that use wands. It's got extremely good intelligence and energy shield, and makes you immune to curses, as well as having other effects as well. This prophecy is the key component to getting your hands on Atziri's Reflection, and you'll notice that it's only 3.8 Exalts. Normally this can be anywhere from 15 to 20 depending upon the popularity of the Atziri's Reflection item. And as a result, if you've ever wanted to build around this, if you've ever wanted to build a wand attack character that uses Atziri's Reflection, this is quite possibly the best chance to do it. Trash to Treasure is also only about 5 Exalts, which is really interesting in a context where the unique ring Call of the Brotherhood is sitting at 3 Exalts. Any blue and green, any intelligence and cold, let me just say that again. Any cold and lightning resistance 2-stone ring that you use a chance orb on whilst you have the Trash to Treasure prophecy active, as long as you do it in your hideout and you're not in a Zana map mod affected zone, it will become Call of the Brotherhood. Now, obviously, that seems like a wasteful use of a 5 Exalt prophecy. You know, you got a 5 Exalt prophecy to make a 2.9 Exalt item, but partly the price of Call of the Brotherhood is a bit misleading here because this includes corrupted ones, and uncorrupted ones are worth more. And secondly, you can also make a Shaper influenced Call of the Brotherhood if you use a Shaper influenced 2-stone ring, and those have special niche uses for Eternity Shroud builds. Again, something that's usually much more expensive than it is in this league. Anyways, that's a bit of an overview of what's going on in the Path of Exile economy. If you've got any comments or questions, definitely fire away below. The only last thing I want to add is that the various Scarabs are extremely cheap this league, unless they are Sulfite related. And, you know, like you've got things like your Gilded Legion Scarab 9 Chaos. You know, like this is ridiculously cheap. There've never been anything like this cheap before. So if you like mapping with Scarabs, this is probably a very good league for you. But if you've got any comments or questions, fire away. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you have a good one. If you'd like to see more videos like this, then subscribe to the channel. If you think other people should find this video easier to find, then give it a thumbs up. And if you think that this video was terrible and you don't think other people should be able to find it, then give it a thumbs down.